So, coming off of my Sonic Generations review, I thought to myself, man, I'm bored as shit, and can't be asked to do anything with Shadow Generations because A, I don't really have it right now, and B, because that would be extra effort, and what could I possibly do with that? I'd prefer to do something I enjoy that I haven't really played in a while. And then it hit me, why don't I play Sonic Racing Cross Worlds? But then I remembered, great, that's on my PlayStation, and that's a bitch to record, mind you, because you can only save up to about an hour of footage, and trying to actually get it saved to your PlayStation account and actually rerouting like the footage and shit like that is a pain in the ass, so I just wouldn't. So I decided I'd make a compromise and create a 6-part series on Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Because that's certainly better, wouldn't you agree? Is 6 parts too long? Not necessarily. This game does have more to do in it, but I'm mostly recording the gameplay for the Expert Cups. Because quite frankly, I hate the mission mode. The mission mode is fine, don't get me wrong. Fuck the bloody Big the Cat one though. That one can go to hell. There'll be no end credits evaluation for this, because I already beat the game before, and for some reason when you beat all the cups again, it doesn't replay the credits. So whether or not you think that's a good thing is really up to you. So while I'm still breathing, let's get to the opening stage, Seaside Hill, Whale Lagoon. Alright, starting off with Seaside Hill is honestly a real treat. You honestly wouldn't think it would translate well to a driving stage. You know, despite the fact there's 2 car sections in Seaside Hill itself, but okay, I guess I'm an idiot today. I would argue that Whale Lagoon may be a contender for one of the best starting stages out of the majority of mascot kart races. And trust me, Insanity Beach is up there as well. I'm glad this game uses songs from their original games rather than remixes, because to be honest it adds a lot more to the stage than, you know, usually what most Sonic games does, where it's just really over the top guitars and stuff like that. So, you know, it's overall better this way. But this does become an issue later on when you remember, if you don't buy the extra tracks for the game, the majority of levels that you're already playing are just going to have the same song repeatedly for the free versions of them, and while the songs themselves are good, it's still a pain in the ass. I'm not really the biggest fan of it. Surprisingly, the game is quite fluent. I remember the game feeling incredibly slippery, very uncontrollable at times. The latter half still being true, as you do have to fight with the game sometimes to drift properly. The game's motions is honestly really fun still. And at the end of the day, the game is less responsive than Transformed, and the difficulty I wish was tweaked a bit better to be harder. Because I realized, like, if you're playing a character like Big, like, yeah, like, the difficulty is gonna be really hard. But if you're not playing Big, like, it doesn't really do anything to the game's difficulty. Like, I think the difficulty is dependent on the character you use, and that's really weird. But other than that, the game is really solid. Anyway, back to Whale Lagoon. The stage's atmosphere fits right in with Seaside Hill. That and the complement of Seaside Hill's music track really does help the zone for a recreational section of the zone. I weirdly enjoy the double O's in the beginning of the stage because it kind of reminds me of Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road, but other than that, the loop is a nice touch. I'd give this stage a solid 4 out of 5. It's quite frankly a really chill stage. But you know what? Speaking of chill stages, you know, I've never played Billy Hatcher, so my mind is a bit frozen here, but this stage is a really weird anomaly. Right, so how do I put this? It's the first stage to properly introduce the trick system, which, it's very stylish for most of the characters, mostly, and then it also completely disregards it, like, instantly, because of the shortcut, which is right in front of the starting line. Like, in the footage here, I've had to actively go out of my way to avoid it, which, granted, because of, like, how the difficulty is for some reason, like, you can just get ahead regardless if you take the long way or not, but that's still not really the point. Granted, the turn does give you an item, which can be helpful, But even then, it still depends on the placement that you're in. That's not really the point. The stage for the most part is well made, however it's quite short with just a few turns and then you're done, and again. Granted, most of the tracks are like this, but I prefer the later Blizzard Castle stages. The music does fit with the Snowland vibe, so it is chill. But other than that, the stage is kind of a letdown. I do prefer the ice stage from Crash Team Racing over this, which isn't saying much. That stage is a bitch. Overall, it comes out to a 3 out of 5. Like, it's not terrible, it's just fine. Some stages feel like a gamble whenever it comes to figuring out if they're good or not. But you know, speaking of gambling, the only other stage to be infamous within Sonic racing games, I know there are other Seaside Hill and Casino Park stages that have returned, it's Roulette Road. Well, how do I put this? This stage is really strange in a lot of things. It feels identical to Heroes, which is great. I actually really enjoy that. But it also feels incredibly linear, which is to be expected to some extent because it's a racing game. It's nothing bad, it just feels different than most stages, which is why it kind of feels off to me. The music is great, but that's really about it. I love being able to drive and drift over the roulette wheel, just like how you were able to in Heroes. Not necessarily drift, but there's a slight section where you go around in a circle after going down one of the pipelines. But this stage is honestly just decent. Like, it's nothing amazing, but it's incredibly solid and fun to race on. The blue turn on that final section, though, is horrible and I hate it. It earns a pretty respectable 3.5 out of 5, as overall it's a great Heroes stage, especially for representation. But other than the references, the stage itself is kind of just a good vibes stage. It's kind of just okay at the end of the day. If I had a nickel for every game in this game having a stage being represented that I have not played, I'd have 5 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's ridiculous when you think about it. Sunshine Tour is one of the best starting cup track finishers I've played in a long time, which isn't really much. The twists and the turns are exhilarating to fly through, especially with high precision and speed. The colours are immaculate and the visuals stand out so much that it makes you feel out of place, but in a good way. The music for this stage is amazing, and it honestly hypes me up every time that I play it, despite how simple the track actually is in its layout. Samba de Amigo tracks must be a universal constant, as they are all great, if not amazing, tracks. Even though this is the first one, it's short to some extent. But even then, it's somehow up there in my big 4 for like my favourite tracks, like in the entire game. Out of all the tracks in the first cup, this might be simply the best. Whale Lagoon is a classic, but I feel like that's because a bit of nostalgia bias, especially because it's in every other Sonic racing game that exists. Except Crossworlds, which is really weird because I thought they would have brought it back for that, but they didn't. That's just weird. But either way, like, Whale Lagoon is just a classic. But Sunshine Tour is forever. Like, are you seeing this shit? So for that, I'm giving Sunshine Tour a great 4 out of 5. I know that's low with how much I've been glazing it and what I've said about it, but I promise it does get better. And at the same time, it may be the same ranking I gave Seaside Hills Whale Lagoon, but at the same time, they're both incredibly solid stages. So I'm going to rank them higher because I don't think of them as specifically starting stages, more of what they're based on, what they're representing, and you can always, you know, tell me if I'm wrong about the Billy Hatcher stages. But the Billy Hatcher stages do get better. I'm just not really the biggest fan of Icicle Valley. But other than that, like, these two like stages in the first cup are honestly one of the best like stages in a starter cup that I've played in maybe years. Alright, real quick, this is just a note that I want to quickly add in before I end the video. It's completely off topic, well kinda, it is and it isn't. But recently I was playing Skylanders Superchargers on the Wii U. It is technically a racing game, especially when you look at Skylanders Supercharged Racing, but I'm not referring to that. And the graphics look really off-putting. It has like an incredibly high like bloom rate, And the models look fuck awful, and I don't even know why. It just looks really weird. I only know the difference because I do own the PS4 version, which is considered one of the best. Well, I say best. It's one of the better versions to own because it's more newer gen, so it's going to have all the graphical updates, etc. Runs better. I think it runs at 60 FPS. I'm not really sure. Now, I should have expected the Wii U version to look worse, play worse, etc. due to it being the Wii U, and especially because the Wii U is actually one of the weaker consoles of that generation at the time. But it really has thrown me off, and this is the same issue that I've had with Sonic and Sega All-Stars on the Wii. I know console versions have their differences, like content and such, but my god, does it look bad on the Wii. Like, it just looks like an upscaling of the DS game, and that's not even like a compliment for it. Like, I know that, you know, the Wii to an extent is about as powerful as a PS2, but at the same time, that's not really the point. Honestly, overall, the first cup is a great cup. It's incredibly decent, with only outlier being Icicle Valley. So overall, it gets a 3.5 out of 5, 1 meh track, 1 pretty decent track, and 2 amazing tracks. This cup stands out, unlike most beginner cups, which again isn't really saying much. I do apologize for the glazing, but I do thoroughly enjoy this beginning cup. Well, anyway, that's it for this part. Do stay tuned for the second part, which will show up when it feels like it. It's part 2 out of a bunch of 6, and thank you for watching. This has been Scarlet, and it's a Scarlet video of questionable quality, and I really hope you hated it.